Hey guys, welcome. It's Two Guys in Hockey Talks. I'm Pavel, and
I'm Evan.
how you doing, Evan?
Hey, good. It's great to be back today. Welcome to Aaron and Jordan. Welcome back again to the second episode, guys, this week. And for those that aren't familiar with our new format, this is our Hockey Roundtable. Well, where are we going today? What's been happening in the world of hockey?
Well, quite a bit, but it's back to popular demand. We've brought these two fine gentlemen back, and we wanted to see what colors they're repping first. So, Jordan, Aaron, you want to introduce and show your colors off?
Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, absolutely. Draisaitl, of course. Got the Draisaitl on the back. Yeah.
Beauty.
These jerseys actually, when I first saw them, I was very unsure about them until I saw them in person. I saw them actually at an Oilers game for the first time. And I was at the Oilers shop, and I was like, wow, these are beautiful. Like, they're well done jerseys. But
you were able to...
I know they have some haters.
They actually wore them, before COVID? There was a pre-COVID. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Aaron. What are you sporting?
I am rocking a plain Golden Knights jersey. Don't have anything
Woohoo!
Still need to decide, but you know what? Newest team in the league while we have the opportunity. I'll have to figure out who to put on the back.
So right now, anyone that's following us, if you guys can just right now put in your comment section, let Aaron know what name should he sport, and we're going to take our little ballot of. So you might get 2 votes, but maybe you'll have a name that is unanimous.
You know what? I'll put this out here right now for the internet, because we know everything on the internet is true and always is going to be the case. Whoever is the majority, and it has to be an actual Golden Knight, but whoever is the majority, I will put on the back of this jersey. I'm saying that right now.
Whoa. Okay. Well, please share, like, subscribe to our channel, and get in on this.
I'm going to put Matthews.
Why, is he getting traded there?
or to a warmer, sunnier climate? Who knows? No, not to offend any Toronto fans. No, Matthews is good. But no, Evan, we're going to talk a little bit about analytics, what it looks like, what we're seeing in the NHL, how we've transitioned to it from Moneyball and from baseball, and how it's been incorporated. We want to get Aaron and Jordan's thoughts as well on it, whether you like it, whether you think it's the way to go. We all know that, Corsi and Fenwick, amongst other things like time on ice, is being measured by
zone starts.
A lot of the coaches, GMs, a lot of this stuff. And a big push for this is because the NHL wants to get into gambling and try to make bets on the games, right? As you guys know, you can do that right now with Sports Select, if I recall, right? So we wanted to know where your thoughts are. Jordan, you can start us off. Do you think analytics are good? Do you think they're if you were a GM, would you use them, or are you more basing things off your eye and what you see?
Yeah, honestly, I think they're excellent for the game. You see teams now, they're starting to add staff and their higher ups to take care of analytics. And that wasn't a thing before. And you notice, even watching games, like I noticed it the other night, they show stuff like shot attempts. They never showed that. Like when I watched hockey 10 years ago, they never showed stuff like that, because those kind of numbers didn't really matter, but they do matter now. You always see at the end of periods, they show where all the shots are coming from, and if they're shooting block or if they're shooting glove, and all those things are going to be in a database at some point. And help teams out. So,
right now, I think Zoom's analytics were just going haywire as you choppy on us.
I think we have a GM breaking in, trying to cut Jordan off for his beliefs.
maybe it's Lou Lamoriello.
Dubas saved you.
Cut me off. Give me a job at least.
Aaron, what are your thoughts on analytics?
You know what? I think both sides of the aisle, you've got people on the analytics side, you got people on the eye test side. I think both of them think they're a silver bullet. Really, you got to use both in conjunction. I think that, for example, with hockey, it's just so hard to quantify. You look at a sport like basketball where you can say, okay, you've got this shooter shooting from this point on the court. There's a 80% chance they're going to hit the shot, for example. But with hockey, you've got so many different variables that you got to take into consideration. Having said that, there is value in having that analytic side of things. So, for example, I'm a Corsi guy over a Fenwick guy just because I don't know how you can take out blocked shots. For me, that just doesn't make sense. You're just trying to have more stats. But you have to use them both in conjunction because you might have a guy that's excellent in Corsi, but you might have someone that's actually a bender with their feet. So you need to have a little bit of both. So as long as you have that conjunction, you're going to be okay.
Fair enough, fair enough. And for our viewers, Corsi is just all the shot attempts at the net that are happening. It doesn't matter if they're on net. They're just shot attempts, plus block shots, plus... What am I missing here?
Yeah, I think it's shot attempts. I wrote it down here quickly at even strength and dividing it
at even strength,
of shot attempts by your opponent.
Yeah, and you take that percentage, right? And then Fenwick is the other one on even strength. So people do measure that. People do look at those when they're making a trade nowadays to see if it's a good fit. You know, I know that teams like Toronto are heavily influenced by analytics, which has always not gone well for them on certain players. You know, we could talk a little bit about that, but essentially it comes down. Well, what about you, Evan?
Yeah, well, so I just want to say first, Corsi, Fenwick, I'm not into any of those. So when it comes into the eye test, I am an old guy. I'm into the eye test. I believe more in the eye test. But actually, let me tell you, I do like analytics when it comes to patterns. And now I say patterns that it takes time. I think we're doing analytics on guys that don't have enough history, and we're not putting enough information together. So an example would be, and working with Aaron being a goalie, he knows what I'm talking about. So when we talk about a goals against average, doesn't work really. It's a very simple stat. It's a team stat, though. It relies on defensemen and forwards. However, save percentage for a goalie is much better. So you save 90% of the shots, 88% of the shots. We've played rec league. We know what that means. And I'm sure Aaron will tell you he probably has a certain save percentage in rec league if he approximates the shots, because most of us goalies count approximately how many shots we're getting. However, here's the problem with analytics. And correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron. The analytics for a goalie on a save percentage depends based on the quality of shots. If you get 2-on-1s and 3-on-1s and 1-on-1 breakaways, my confidence as a goalie is going to drop instantly compared to outside perimeter shots that I have a chance to see and come through. Your thoughts, Aaron?
No, I think exactly the same way, because it's not just the type of shot, or it's not just that you're getting shots, it's the quality of shots. Because as we know, as beer league goalies, we have the best defense out there, so we're only getting good shots from outside on the boards. That's just the way it works. But I know when I'm coming on and I'm dealing with 7 or 8 breakaways, I'm not so much counting, okay, I had this many shots, my save percentage was this. I'm like, hey, I stopped 6 of 8 of those breakaways. That's actually not bad. I mean, I realize that's not the NHL metric, but that's just what I go off of.
Actually, I think that's
can I just say that can I just say, Evan, that I think you're just trying to try out for the Edmonton Oilers and be their backup goalie, and it doesn't matter what your goal saves are. Anybody will do. Just calling anybody. Give Holland a call.
I'm not above being an e-bug. I'll be an e-bug all day.
I mean, apparently they need a third string goalie right now, so maybe I should try my luck.
Here's one thing I will say about stats that's really bothered me is you have a lot of guys trashing, like the higher end guys, like I'm thinking Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, for having plus minus that's very low. We forget that you don't have power play considered there. So if you add power play points, I think McDavid had something like 44 power play points last year, but he was a -7. You add those 44, that is a completely different stat.
Mm-hmm. So, Jordan, what's your thought on this then? Zone starts, because let's talk about centermen, face-offs. I think that a stat that I do like is seeing the percentage of face-offs won in an offensive zone compared to goals scored. So in zone starts, I feel pretty comfortable that some guys and centermen are really good in their face-off in the defensive zone, excellent, but for some reason they're not as good, say, in the neutral.
Well, it does depend on how you win faceoffs as well, because some players like doing forehand or backhand, and some, like, depending on who you're facing off against as well. Like if you're a lefty and you're facing off against a righty, you're not going to like it because most people are that's their power arm, right? So that's why it's so coveted to have like a right-handed centerman that can play, especially higher up in your lineup, like a Mark Scheifele, Tyler Seguin. Those kind of guys are excellent to have. Kyle Turris. Yeah, like they're great to have though. Like there's another guy, a waiver wire guy, Jason Spezza right now. So
yeah, let's come back to Spets a little later when we go to wrap up today, guys. So here's something else that I just wanted to throw in there on analytics, because I am definitely more an eye guy. One of the concerns that I have with analytics being an all or nothing almost, that they're evaluating based on that Moneyball concept, is that, so for example, so we have a player. And like you were just saying, you might have a player that's playing on a poor defensive team like Edmonton. And so like McDavid and Draisaitl got run through the gamut in the play-ins. It's like, they got to fix their defensive play, and it's their fault on this. It's like, well, actually, those guys had nothing else to do but to watch those guys and play some defense, And so if you look at analytics, it could look like there's a problem with those two superstars. However, the concern that I have is that players are being kind of put into a box instead of looking at the all around. So here's an example. Right now, analytics are saying all these NCAA players got this great metrics based on the analytics, and they're being drafted, and they're good players. They're solid. They might be third line, fourth line. Very few NCAA guys are coming into your top 6 or your top 2 defensive, or someone like Makar is very unique, but he also came out of, I think it was the BC JHL, BC Junior Hockey League as well. He was involved in. One of the things that I'm always worried about is that we're not drafting people based on the pattern. So when I play a video game, I'm really good at old video games still, because I know the patterns of the rapid fire and stuff. Just like when I looked at Ryan Nugent-Hopkins following draft picks and who's coming up, I look and I could see that someone like Eric Lindros, it was consistent at every league. He always played up. But we also saw someone like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Maybe he's not going to be a superstar, but someone like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins had his curve was on a continuous rise, even against higher competition. And that's my thing, that I think it's the eye test against the actual competition is the most important thing that you need to have out there. My thought.
100%. But what I think is also important is that analytics allow players to kind of focus on a specialty of their game. Case in point, Crosby was never good at faceoffs when he started. He struggled mightily with it, and he would interchange, fortunately, with Malkin, who was able to do and be a better faceoff guy. Same thing with, Edmonton, Draisaitl is better at faceoffs than McDavid, right? So what did McDavid do this past summer, and what did Crosby do over the last few years? They worked on their faceoff game over the summer. That was their focus.
Yeah.
And players take those analytics and say, okay, this is where my game needs improvement. And they become a better all-around 200-foot player, which we can admire and watch. And on top of the generational play that, McDavid and Crosby do, they are great in their defensive zone when they can be. And they try, right? And McDavid will reach that status, but it'll take some time, right? He's still young. He's only 24. He has plenty of room to grow. But analytics helps. It helps identify what works for a player, where to improve themselves.
So I don't know if you guys knew. Do you guys know who was the number one influence for Sidney Crosby in learning faceoffs? Yannick Perreault. Yeah, he was schooled by Yannick Perreault in his first year. Yannick Perreault came in the same year Eric Lindros did. Go and pull up, for all you stats nerds, pull up Yannick Perreault. Look at his junior. Even look at him in the All-Star game. I think he had like 7 or 8 points in the what do we call the Orr versus Cherry game for the CHL.
Oh, the top prospects game.
Top prospects game. Yeah. He actually outshined even Eric Lindros during that year, but the guy was phenomenal. Manny Malhotra made a living at, Ryan Kessler, but you are right. However, I do find that if a player cannot improve a centerman within their first 3 years, they can't get over 50%. I have not seen very many players actually get above the 50. So that's my concern for all you Edmonton folks, because I don't think McDavid is going to be above a 50% guy.
Fair enough. I will, however, give you a consideration that there is a player who analytically was terrible, but ended up playing in the All-Star game. Have you heard of the legendary John Scott?
Yes.
He was an All-Star.
I heard he was big.
All-Star MVP.
Oh, and an MVP.
You want to
Not
take
to
So it
hear
proves
you
your
just
point,
now.
Evan.
Well, you want to take a face off against a guy that's 6'8". I mean, good luck.
I mean, you beat him. He's just going to sit on you.
I think they should start putting Zdeno Chara at center and leave him in the defensive zone, and everyone else go past him.
Do the
I
flying.
do
V.
enjoy when what's his name, Chara plays, when he was in Boston, of course, played against Edmonton versus Yamamoto, because you see the size differential, right? It's like, what is happening?
And then there's a picture of him and who's that? Nathan Gervais. Who's
Oh,
like
yes, when he was with...
about 4 or 5'5" or something like that, and it's like them side by side, and he's just like a mountain compared to him.
Hey, so anyone that's following us right now, if you could do us a favor on our Facebook page, if you could post a picture of the smallest and tallest guys colliding in hockey. I want to see some action shots. So I'm going to go try and find some. I'm going to put them up there. I don't know. I'm just kind of like, now I'm excited. I want to go watch them, rock them, sock them, see if I can find some big and small. The downside with those big guys, though, is they get penalties because everybody's in their elbows. Yeah, who was it? Eric Gryba. You remember Eric Gryba in Edmonton? He got suspended for 3 games because the guy was too little and too weak.
There's one quote that I love. Mark Messier, after he retired, I can't remember who did the interview. I apologize. I don't have that off the top of my head, but he was interviewed and he said, "Who do you think you elbowed the most during your career?" And his response was, "I never actually elbowed anybody. People just kept running into me and I got penalties for it."
I love it. All right, guys. So, we still have some time left. Last week, what we did is we took the best of the North Division, looking at the prospects for each one of their teams. So let's go to the West. So that was the team. I think we agreed we're going to cover the West, correct? So that's going to be the Golden Knights, the Wild, the Coyotes, the Avalanche, the Blues, Anaheim, and Los Angeles. All right. Who wants to go first? Nobody.
I can go if you need.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so I'll just start off. I didn't have a ranking system because there's a lot of really good prospects in this division.
Yeah, Pavel does that. We'll let him do it.
Honestly, there's better prospects in this division than there was in the last, to be honest. But
yeah, there is some good ones in this one.
Yeah. Sorry, you want me to start?
Yeah. Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah. Okay.
Start us off.
So with Vegas, I got a guy. I don't know if he's actually over the 30 games. I don't believe so, but Cody Glass.
Good pick.
Yeah, Cody. Yeah. I was thinking about Cody. Yeah.
Solid. Worst case scenario, that guy turns into a third line center, but I really don't see it. I see him more of as top 6 kind of guy. He can move over to the wing. He can play center, right-handed again. Pretty durable player. With the Wild, this is my favorite one out of all the picks, is Kirill Kaprizov. He's not a name that a lot of guys know, but in KHL and juniors, like, he's just lit it up. Just an absolute stud over in the KHL.
See, like we talked about last week, another of.
Another of.
Arizona, there's not a lot to pick with Arizona, but they do have a really good prospect in Barrett Hayton, the old Canadian captain. Avalanche, I have 2 guys, because Avalanche are one of those teams that's just absolutely stacked with prospects. I have Bowen Byram as my main guy. I think he's just ready to step in at any point. And Alex Newhook. He's a surprise player. I actually see him turning into that Yamamoto type player or Brendan Gallagher type player, like very durable, small, but very fast. The Blues would be another team I didn't have a whole lot to pick from, but I picked a kind of unusual pick. I went with the goalie in Joel Hofer. He's the Canadian juniors. Here's where the story starts. Canadian junior players, but
wow.
Yeah, Sharks, I went with Ryan Merkley, just a right-handed, good puck-moving defenseman. Kings, I went with Alex Turcotte. Centerman, worst case scenario, once again, this guy's going to be a second-line center in the NHL, so just an easy pick. The Ducks, I went with Trevor Zegras. They have a lot of really good prospects, but I think he's right at the top. So
yeah, he wasn't that again the World Juniors.
Yeah,
talking about all these young guys. I mean, Zegras. Oh my goodness. I can actually say that I was actually hoping for him to actually fall to the Oilers and to take his on that pick, which was interesting. But
he was ranked as high as 3 in that draft.
I know,
which is unreal to think about. I've fallen to 9. But...
So out of all those prospects that you were saying for the teams, which one would you consider like kind of the top?
Kirill Kaprizov. I honestly think this guy is the next Panarin. Like I'm saying it right now. Call me out on it in a couple years, but I honestly think this guy is just he's just amazing. He has great players to play around. Imagine him with Fiala and Marco Rossi. Like that is an offensive line that is very scary. This guy has size too.
So Kaprizov has around, I'm just looking at his last 4 years in the KHL. So he's about a point a game. And his last year, he went over. So he's only just a couple points short each year. Yeah, phenomenal. Lots of good training from some top world-class Russians. Awesome.
I think he had 3 points the other night.
Good for him, man. I'm actually excited to actually watch the Wild. Just to kind of see, it's nice to see them have some guys that can move the puck well.
Can you say that again? I don't think I've ever heard any human say I'm excited to see the Wild play.
Yeah, exactly. All right, who's next? Who wants to take a shot at the West Division?
Aaron?
Bravo, if you want to go right ahead.
No, go ahead, Aaron.
All right. Well, I'll start off with the team.
It's like we're all not wanting to share the West, you know?
Fair enough. We're just good Canadian boys. That's all it is. I'll say sorry ahead of time, too.
Sorry.
So I'll start off with the Knights here, and I got to go with Peyton Krebs. He had an unbelievable World Junior. He started off a little shaky. I'll give you that. But you know what? He's a solid two-way player, and he could fill out any team's mid-6. So I think he's going to be a solid guy there. Jordan, you already kind of mentioned him. For me, for the Wild, I have Marco Rossi. I think he's going to be one of those guys that was underrated when we went in. But as he develops, he's going to be a solid player for that team. He could easily fill up that top 2. For the Yotes, I went a little off the board, and I went with Soderstrom because I think they're going to need someone as OEL's replacement. I'm not going to say he's going to be the next OEL, but I'm saying that they need a guy that can be on that back end and move that puck, and I think Soderstrom's a guy who can do that. For the Avs, they've just got a spoil of riches. It's not fair looking at their defense or their prospect pool, but how can you not go Bowen Byram? The man is just a machine. We saw how dominant he was again at the World Juniors this year, so easy pick. For the Blues, I was hoping this is going to be my off-the-board pick, but Jordan, you already beat me to it. I got to go with Joel Hofer at .946 save percentage in the WHL. That is unreal. That kid's going to have a good future. The Sharks, I didn't go with I've already forgot his name off the top of my head, but with him, the guy that you had, for me, I find that he just has too many attitude problems. That's going to be very difficult to overcome. I genuinely hope he does.
Are we talking about Ryan Merkley?
Merkley, yes, that's
okay.
it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So for the Sharks, I went with Weisblatt. Elite Prospects described him as a human cheat code in transition. And I think for a team like that, they need someone that can help with their transitional games because you got a lot of leadership and experience lost in Thornton. Obviously, you've had their captain move over to Dallas. So they need someone like that. He's not necessarily going to be that top elite prospect, but he's going to be someone that can fill out their lineup. With the Kings, I had to go with Quinton Byfield. The man is huge. He's a power forward that can also skate. He reminds me a little bit of Draisaitl, to be honest, which is kind of scary because he's going to be back in that Pacific Division whenever we get back to those normal times. And for the Ducks, again, how do you not go with Trevor Zegras? The man is a machine. He's got so much speed, just silky mitts, a great shot, great release. He's going to have an awesome future as a Duck.
Good one. Good call.
Yeah. Excellent.
All right, I'll throw mine in there, Pavel, and then I'll let you throw yours in. So I'm actually really close to a lot of the ones you guys have too. Golden Knights, obviously I'm taking Peyton Krebs. Good old Cranbrook boy. I used to grow up in Cranbrook in my teenage years, so I don't know if people know, but also for the Cranbrook Colts back in the day, Stevie Yzerman, Scotty Niedermeyer, some really good guys have come out of there. So interesting enough, though, with the Wild Kaprizov offs, yeah, like you said, Panarin. I never thought of him at that level, but I agree with Jordan here that I think that this guy, I guess I just didn't know if he could take it within the small North American ice, but it seems that it's actually benefited him. And especially having a higher quality of talent and defense that can push that puck up, right? So the Coyotes, I definitely went with Barrett Hayton. I think that he's probably the best potential, and his work over in Finland is doing nothing but helping him. Everyone seems to have Bowen Byron. I had to go with him. I don't think that anyone else in their system is even close to Bowen Byron. If it wouldn't be for such a good team right now, he would actually be able to be playing on that team. So the Blues, I did something a little different. He's their backup goalie at this time, at least playing Ville Husso. I don't know how we're going to pronounce his name, but he seems to have had a good track record. They talk about the Blues. They have a lot of lower draft picks. I'm not really feeling good about their farm system. I don't like a lot of the prospects. I think they're good, but I think it's going to be hurting them in the next 3 years, though, along that line. So I took Merkley just because somebody with an attitude like Phil Kessel has to be able to make it. Phil Kessel was kind of the same kind of character. There was talk about him going even higher. He would have went to Pittsburgh, but they let him drop. And the reason they let him drop is because of that attitude. And they took Jordan Staal. Interesting enough. But Anaheim, Zegras, that's a given. And then Quentin Byfield, like you said, I'm going to go out on the limb though, and I like Quentin Byfield. I think that his first 2 years though, I think people need to lower their expectations. I think he's one of those guys, like you said, a little bit like the Draisaitl piece. He's going to take a little while to kind of build in and catch the game, but he's smart. He's really smart. And as he grows into it, gets a feel for the size, and he's got a great mentor there in Kopitar. So that's my go around.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same with on the page that you guys are on. What I kind of went with is, in terms of teams, in terms of their system and what they have in place. And essentially it comes down to where, for the last place, the Sharks and St. Louis are kind of tied. They don't really have much in their back alley, like what's their really prominent names, right? Next, you got the Vegas Golden Knights. But of course, as you know, apart from Peyton Krebs, they're trading everything left, right, and center to win now, right? That is their goal, right? Kelly McCrimmon wants to win now. They went out and got Pietrangelo. They got Mark Stone. As Aaron knows the jersey, he's waiting for a name to be put on there. He wants to lift that jersey up to know that it's a Stanley Cup champion jersey, right? But, next you got Arizona. Again, they've had a bit of a scandal this past summer, as we talked about, and Payson. So they're kind of out of prospects. And I had thought that maybe, Edmonton sends something that way for a goaltender, Antti Raanta or Darcy Kemper. It was kind of a talk of the town, and who knows if that didn't take place. But really nothing there. I'm hoping, and I know he's played in the NHL a little bit longer, but, Clayton Keller's got to pick it up, right? Like, he's being paid as a second line center. He's got to pick it up. Then you've got Colorado and the Wild kind of tied. Bo Byram is good, but the one guy that I think is kind of left field that impressed me during the juniors was Connor Timmins. I think he played very well. I think he's very underrated, and he'll fit right into the forward line, especially with the depth that they have there. And I think he can easily play the third line and make it work, right? And get some experience around veteran leadership, right? Especially since they moved Burakovsky up to the first line. So, anything's possible. So they're good. And then I think it's a tie between the Kings and Anaheim, but I'm going to give the edge to the Kings just because, as you guys said, Byfield is a star and he's going to really showcase his talent soon. His size is great, but as we all know, it's a little harder to skate fast with size. And that's something that a lot of larger players have a hard time with, right? You want to be about 170 to 185 and then build that muscle up as you go along. But when you're 200 pounds, 6'2", and you're ready to start skating, it's a little harder to move around.
You know, you look at all the prospects, and I really wish they would go back to what did they do that one year for the All-Star game when they had like all the first-year rookies?
Oh,
the
young guns, yeah.
Young guns. I love the young guns. That's where they started a lot of the 3-on-3, right? With the idea. I wish they would actually just, because it gives them a chance to showcase and get a chance to kind of be with the big boys, you know? Like to rep someone. So anyway, if you're going to do an all-star, let's bring the young guns in. Let's get them a chance to.
And it will be captained by John Scott.
Coached by John Scott.
He's a grandpa. God. Okay, let's go over to, before we wrap up here, end up our show, everyone. We're running out of time. Jason Spezza, we mentioned this earlier. He went on waivers today. So what's your thoughts? You guys think someone's going to claim him, or you think he's going to slip through the system onto the taxi squad?
He's made it clear to the media that he wants to retire and stay in Toronto. So if somebody picks him up, he's retiring. He's not going to step away. But that's just my prediction. He's what they need as a fourth-line center, sometimes a third-line center, a penalty killer. That's what he's there for.
Have you heard? I haven't caught a quote on that, though. Did you do you have a source on that?
No source. It's just talk of Toronto media fans, TSN.
Well, TSN knows what they're talking about. They spend a lot of time studying the Toronto Maple Leafs.
But I could be wrong, so I'll let Aaron and Jordan share their thoughts.
Well, he is 40 years old, so I mean you have to take that into consideration that he is probably right at the end of his career. If I was a team out there, I would absolutely pick him up. Right-handed centerman, when you face off, kill penalties. He still has a little bit of skill in his game too. So I mean, I don't think he's the best skater by all means. I don't think he can really skate much at all anymore. But you can put guys around him. Since he's a centerman, he doesn't need to skate around the ice. So.
And you know what? I mean, who knows from the agent's perspective whether or not that's a bluff, whether or not he's just trying to say, I want to stay in Toronto. Who knows? Maybe they're worried that someone's going to pick him up. But if it is, in fact, the case that he genuinely just wants to stay as a Leaf and retire that way, I mean, how can you blame the guy? It's in the middle of a pandemic. You don't want to have to move down to the States or something like that. In worst case scenario, have to isolate for 2 weeks or whatever their laws are and not know what you're going to be in that lineup, or if you're just going to be on the taxi squad. If you want to go out that way, if you have the ability to have some control, all the power to the guy.
You know, you got to admire players who decide to just go out. That if you're at the spot and you're a fourth liner and you've been a star, you know, I got to say that I think I would have called it quits if I was him at the end of last year for sure. You know, but I agree with Jordan. I think that he has still skill set, but I wonder whether, like Pavel's hearing, that if from the Toronto sports media, that if it's actually true that he has no desire to go anywhere else.
That's fair. So to aggravate the Toronto media again and all the Toronto fans is, I think he should be picked up by the Ottawa Senators and retire as senator.
I think he should send. I think he should play with Tim Stützle.
Yes.
Well, guys, thanks for joining us, Aaron, Jordan, Pavel. It's been a blast. So, guys, we got to wrap up our show today. Thanks for joining us. Join us again next week for our next episode on Hockey Roundtable with Two Guys and Hockey Talk. So, in the meantime, in between time, that's it for another edition of
Keep your stick on the ice. Thank you. Like, share, and subscribe. Cheers, guys.
Thanks for having us.